are you going to be when I need you? Will you sit down with me when I have lunch with you? Can we have a conversation? I think that's important. You know, to have a relationship with your broker and definitely get that where we're at. But also, I think what the brokerage teaches is important too, like how often you bring a speaker in.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. Today, I have another team in the house. The difference here is they are not married to each other. They appear to be best friends, but the foundation of their relationship is they are sisters. They have named their team JAX Listing Sisters accordingly. Today, we will dig deep into what makes this sister team work and how they consistently are top producers. Let's welcome the JAX Listing Sisters of Brooke Hewitt and Tammy Baranowski to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. I'm glad to finally get you guys scheduled up and on. I know you had some personal things going, and hopefully the smoke is cleared on those things. If you guys want to talk about it, you're welcome to share that with everyone. But as I start off every show, tell us a little about where you're from.
Well, we're from here. We're from Northeast Florida. So thank you also for having us both on the show. And exactly. So we're from Northeast Florida, lived here most of our lives, both of us. Brooke had a few years in Georgia in her late teens, and I went with my husband to St. Louis for a few years. And I had a couple years in Georgia, but for 40 years on average, if you average our age, we've been here in Northeast Florida. Grew up around Clay County. Brooke still lives in Clay County and Fleming Island. I live in the Oakleaf area.
Middleburg High. Did I see that correctly on your LinkedIn? I think it was Tammy's LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Went to Middleburg.
Middleburg High School, and then 2 degrees from University of North Florida. Bachelor's and master's in nutrition science because I was a dietitian in a previous life. Also, I was a massage therapist in a previous life, so I went to school there. So I've done a lot of nurturing, people-centric service things in my careers and background, and so real estate was a nice transition there.
Okay. We don't want to tell the whole story up front in the first couple of minutes, though.
Okay.
Brooke, tell me a little bit, and then Tammy chime in, having grown up in the area. I mean, I think there's a lot of agents or a lot of people that move here that have become agents and become successful. But one of the hesitancies of a lot of people is they didn't grow up here. You guys did. How are you guys taking advantage of those type of relationships? The fact that you have spent most of your life in the area.
Well, I think we have an advantage that we know each of the areas very well. Been here our whole lives. We're very well connected with people within the community because we've been here our whole lives, mostly anyway. And I just think that's an advantage for folks that have lives.
Okay.
For sure. I would agree. And I would just say too, when we're traveling around with people, I know last year in particular, relocation was a big part of my business. A lot of people are moving to Florida for great reasons. I mean, I certainly love it here, weather, just everything. So particularly when they didn't know much about the area, we were able to tell deep historical stories and anecdotal stories. Hey, this, when we were growing up, this was a dirt road, or this wasn't even here. Middleburg didn't even have a Walmart, and so on and so forth. Or, this family owned all this land before it was Oakleaf or whatever it is. And,
right.
Those are cool tidbits.
I think people do like to know that little bit of history. They may not ask it up front because they may not know that type of thing. I always tell the story about Green Cove Springs from somebody that's lived there for, 30 some years. And they, people don't realize Green Cove has had a couple of heydays post World War II, but even if you go back before Flagler built the railroad, that's where steamship stop was in Green Cove Springs. And it's little, and people don't know that little bit of history about it. As we're on this subject, we're kind of going off tangent, but I think this is important to some of the things that I like to get across on the podcast is the between lifestyle. I think when people move here and, buy in particular communities because of lifestyle has a lot of influence in it. But strength that you guys have is being local, that someone who wasn't born here, but even you guys in your marketing and so forth, are there things that you do to kind of highlight the area? Are you guys doing social media videos and so forth to say, hey, there's a great restaurant, or hey, did you know there's 6 marinas here and on this side of the river to jump into the St. John's River? Do you guys do stuff like that?
That is actually one of our goals for this year because we just recently kind of teamed up and became a team to get all that out there as a team. And so we haven't done that yet. It's one of our goals this year.
Right. Not on social media or out there for the public, but on our individual interactions. Just a
Right.
story of yesterday. We had somebody find us on social media, relocating here from Canada. And, when you're scrolling through the 8,000 agents in Northeast Florida and they can all start to look the same, they said that we stood out to them. Obviously they are going to look up your numbers and things like that if they can, but they could just tell, from the areas that we were selling in, the price points, but also when we met with them, we were like, hey, we're not just here to help you find a house. We're here. They were saying, where should we stay? We don't want to stay at a chain hotel. We want to eat at the foodie places. We want to check out all the golf courses. So we got them a list of all the best golf courses. We reached out to friends and stuff.
Did they tell you which social media was it Facebook, Instagram? What are you guys, where they came across you?
It was Google. That's on Google.
So agents, if you're not working on your Google, on your Google,
100. There's no doubt 100%. Google can be really hard to change the business address and so forth. They want to verify and then they want to send you a postcard and it's like, okay, where's that postcard going to go? Who's going to get it? And they're just going to see this little, it's Google, whatever, throw it in the garbage. So I'm having a little challenge with that with my moves recently, but it is, I think for an agent and especially as a team and what you guys are producing, because the Google search is so important. And then right behind it is going to be YouTube, which, the reels and obviously this full length video of this, the whole will be, someone should be able to Google, it should pop up for you guys as well to direct them to it. But people from a distance are looking for, who are they going to meet?
Right.
Who are they going to?
And that's what they said. They read our reviews and it just spoke to them. So that's why they decided us over others that they happen to see.
Right.
Depend on YouTube. No, but like I said, that's one of our goals out there. And
I really want to, the many things, the visions. I'm a visionary, so things flash through my head of all the needs that I want, and one is a YouTube channel. I think Josh Rogers is doing a really good job of that. I know his apprentice Andrew Michael. He's a good friend of mine. He's going around and shooting going around the different neighborhoods. And obviously, all these EXP agents, we're going to talk about EXP in a minute, but Osrek, his keeps telling the agents, master your neighborhood, right? He's over there at Beacon Lake and he's Mr. Beacon Lake because he does the market report and everyone in Beacon Lake knows him. He doesn't know everybody in Beacon Lake, but they know him because of the YouTube. And I think it's after really getting my YouTube channel, it's not even a couple of months now going. And if you go on there, of course, there's all the reels from the shows. And then in the full length videos, and then I'm adding educational videos in there too about mortgages and stuff like that, or even just investing in property. But now there's a whole platform on there, and the more you put on there, the more searchable you're going to move up in that.
Oh, for sure. That's one thing we learned about at Momentum. So shout out to John and Brittany Brooks at Momentum for teaching us that, is that you have to be findable on the internet. So they've put together classes by some other agents, Bryson Powers for one, on how to do these YouTube videos. And also, being a real estate agent is like 5 full-time jobs because you're your own marketing person, you're your own finance person, you're your own boots on the ground and stuff. And so you can leverage part of it. But I do think what I've learned is that the social presence is something that you shouldn't outsource because, nobody's going to put yourself across like,
what part you could outsource, and I will brag about who I go to. I use Streamline Media. There's other companies, but Streamline Media they actually tell me they work with agents, but they have to actually have fired agents because they're like, okay, you got to send us some content. We're not going to, you could pay us or pay someone to follow you with a camera, but you got to actually, if you're not doing that, you got to video yourself and then send us the content, then we'll make it look good. Right. And it's that little piece of adding the content in here. We'll dig a little deeper. I want to get a little bit more about you guys. So both of you have had previous careers prior to real estate. Tammy, if I saw your LinkedIn, the way you described it, you were the nutrition, but you were in massage therapy for quite a long time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of service, when you do these personality tests to find out what your personality is suited to, it's always been service-based, nurturing type stuff, which is, I think, a similarity that I have with Brooke. But we also have a lot of big differences. And I always say she's the yin to my yang. I'm the fire and she's the water. And I am the visionary and she's the executor, but I'm also the squirrel all over the place. And she's the grounding, voice of reason. So that's why we make such a wonderful team, because I could just go off, especially when the market's a little slower and I'm getting into all these things and I'm
Right.
building the YouTube and I'm researching stuff and I'm just shooting all these ideas at her. And she's just like, whoa, how about we just start by doing one thing? Okay, let's do the one thing. But yeah, so I did massage therapy and
Was that something you just, just learned to, like, I mean, going to college, you're like, yeah, I mean, this is like an area I want to go to? Or was it something that you sort of fell into, a friend recruited you and you're like, oh, this is an area maybe I should continue to follow up?
well,
Was it your vision or
it took me a long
some,
time to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I was a late bloomer, to say the least. So I always knew that I loved learning. I loved school. I mean, I had credits almost halfway to an associate's degree by the time I got out of high school. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a pharmacist at one point, and then I just really liked the sciences and things like that. And
Mhm.
so really massage therapy led me into nutrition, that holistic lifestyle. But then before that, though, I was studying chemistry, and it wasn't
clicking?
it wasn't people centric enough. I went on a field trip once with my chemistry cohort to a research and development center, and they had these people with PhD degrees in a basement just doing the same test over and over. And it was the biggest nightmare I'd ever seen. Basically, I was like, exit, check, please. So I took a hiatus, and while I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, it seemed like an easy, achievable, cool thing to
Mhm.
have, and it has been. I mean, it's just because I don't practice anymore on a professional level, it's still nice to be able to treat
Right.
friends and family, and it's a fun hobby. And everybody
Right.
loves to know someone that knows how to do that. So I don't regret that at all. But then, yeah, so that into the nutrition thing, and again, it's a great career, and it's great. It's super interesting, the science, but it's not one of those great return on investments where you get out of it what you put into it, like real estate is, which is ultimately, part of like, let me do something where I have flexibility and autonomy,
Right.
and I can get out of what I put into it. And then Brooke and I have always had a dream of working together. At one point, we were going to open up a day spa, which went hand in hand with like the nutrition and massage.
She's definitely the visionary.
Absolutely.
Brooke, tell us a little bit. What was your, you're graduating high school, you're 18, 20 years old. I mean, what were your initial visions of a career? What were you thinking about?
Well, I was an early bloomer. I actually had my first child at 18. So, I had things that I did want to do, but
Mhm.
God had other plans for me. So I had my daughter, and I ended up moving back here to Florida because I was just there for a short time for school, and moved back to Florida. And I met my husband, and together we have 5 girls. So that's a lot of children.
5 girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I was blessed to be able to stay home
Mhm.
for many years. Farm. I managed the farm. We had over 30 animals at one time. So 5 children, 30 animals. So,
Wow.
I managed that, which was no easy task at all. So, like I said, I was blessed to be able to stay at home for a little bit. And then I did transition into a couple of different sales,
Mhm.
which was great because I love people. I love working with people. I'm not, I guess, a super salesy person. I feel like it's my most genuine, and I wasn't trying to ever be into anything longer need.
So each of you, if you can answer this question, whoever wants to go first on it, from your previous careers, what are some of the things that you learned that you've moved forward and intrinsically have put into your real estate business?
Right. Yeah, well, there's just so much, right? All along life, whether it's a professional experience, it's a personal experience, you're putting tools in your tool bag. And for me, going to different colleges, getting the opportunity to travel abroad in grad school, getting the opportunity to do like some research and working in all those different things. Ultimately, it's dealing with people when you get it down to the base level. I learned a lot about like bureaucratic red tape and corporations and things, which is not something I wanted to learn, but something that proves helpful, I guess, that I know the structure and hierarchy of things, so that as we build our business and do start to leverage things, I know some things about that, but also just service, and that's what our product is, right?
Right.
It's service.
Yep.
It's being there. It's not just being like, oh, once the transaction's done, we're done, because we're always playing the long game. So, and that's why we get so much repeat and referral business, especially Brooke. She's the queen of that, because those genuine connections that she makes as being a family person and a nurturing person really comes through in her business. There's so much blend of it. So they feel that they're her genuine friend, and they are. And so do my past clients. This Friday, I'm going to a concert with one of my past clients, and, she literally will, when they're having a hard time, she cries with them. When they're having a great time, she celebrates with them. And so I think that's ultimately the thing that comes through for me, is that we've gotten those things in previous careers about how to deal with people and build relationships. But, anybody can learn about real estate and different types of roofs and different types of siding. And of course, we know the location stuff, but the part that you can't teach is that work ethic and the soft skills.
Brooke, she puts the word on you, nurturing. So I'm going to add to the same question. I'm just going to add. So obviously, taking care of 5 daughters and a farm, there's a lot of nurturing in that
Yeah.
aspect. So you blend it in. I mean, with your background, when you approach those clients, it's natural for you, but it's because of you. Tell us a little bit, the things in the past that you notice. If you even notice, you may not even think about them, but yeah, how does that nurturing come out when you're working with another family?
Well, I just honestly, I listen. I just let them do all the talking. Tell me your wants, tell me your needs, and I just feel like treating them like family, really the most to them, because they trust me, because I really have their needs in mind, and
Right.
and I'm looking out for myself. I'm looking out for them. So yeah, I definitely feel family life and everything else shines through my customers, because they feel the connection there, because I just like
Right.
listen, let them talk, and
I can see, based on what you guys have told me, your backgrounds, why why the yin and the yang, and the visionary and the integrator. I could see, because of your background, the 10,
well, they're
15
both
years of
things are
do-
right.
yeah. Oh,
They're-
100%.
yeah,
100%.
and so
Yeah.
that's why we just totally balance each other out, and
Uh,
it works.
there is a book Sarah Rocco gave me. It's the name of it's not coming up. Rocket Fuel. That's the name of it. It's called Rocket Fuel. And it talks about the importance of having one person being a visionary and one person being the integrator, and how corporations will, search for that perfect thing. And over, history, companies been around for years, when they accelerated and when they didn't, where they had the right people, had that visionary, and then had the integrator, had, you're going through your mind of all these different ideas, and she's telling you, well, that ain't going to be rubber to the road. That's not going to happen.
I mean, not always, but
Yeah.
lots of times that I'm like, oh, that's not necessary, and she's 100% right. And
Yeah.
so that's what's great about working with her, is because we bounce those ideas off each other, and we
Well, I mean, and how much is it your friend, obviously being sisters, you obviously, probably call each other best friends as well. It's not always like that in siblings. You have a unique situation where you do have this bond between the two of you that you can accept. Like I had Heather and Danielle, obviously they're not sisters, but where they can accept a little, the other person telling them no, or, venting on them when, I just see, do you vent on her? I don't see her being a venter.
She's so good at that. She knows me so well, and she's so good at not triggering any defensiveness in my part or whatever, but gently just helping me ease towards it. And I just was so grateful to her for that. And you're
Mhm.
right, a lot of siblings don't have that relationship. But as a matter of fact, I talked to Heather and Danielle a lot when we were deciding whether to be a team, because I was a
Mhm.
little fearful that my strong personality would steamroll
Right.
hers, and didn't want that, because obviously we love each other so
Mhm.
much. And so I was fearful that she wasn't going to push back on me when it was something, but she has, and she does.
Yeah.
So that's good. But ultimately, since we're kind of at that point of us becoming a team, we were always kind of working together, even as independent. But our family is what brought us together. Our mom was really critically ill in September. We spent the whole month in the hospital with her. And it was during that time when we both needed to be there with her around the clock. And I knew we were going to have to stick together on all fronts to make it through, including keeping our business going. And that was what ultimately said, well, if we're going to do this, let's just jump in. And it's been the best decision ever.
Yeah.
It's been so well received, from social media, the branding, the sisterhood.
So I'm really, this is area, because I often say, and I've said it my entire life, but I said many times in podcasts, I should have been a psychology major, because the egos, the sibling rivalry, and not just people we're in an area, we're in sales. So there's a little bit of competitiveness in us. We're not operational people. We're a little competitive and trying to get that next sale or have someone obviously put out a great social media because someone, chooses us because of that. And we're flattered by that. That's our competitiveness of us. So when it comes to you guys, and I'm kind of jumping a little bit forward here because I want to put this thread into our conversation is when you guys have disagreements, and now you guys are just starting getting, so there's going to be more going into the future and how you guys are actually going to function with it. Or, when you really want to do something and she's like, no, I don't think we're going to do it. It's a 50-50 vote there. There's no third person to break the tie.
I mean, but we do have, board of advisors. Brooke's husband is a very successful and businessman and smart man in and of himself. So we kind of trust his judgment on things. John and Brittany, wonderful.
Okay.
My
Do
husband.
they know they're under the gun when you come in here that they might be breaking a tie?
When we ask them, well, maybe so, because they're always very gentle, like, oh, whatever you guys want to do,
Yeah.
but they can see the vision. They're like, well, who's going to be, the alpha or who's going to do whatever.
Mhm.
And we just lean to our natural talents. Like you can tell my social media is post, and hers is like, I have to make her send me some content, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I could tell just by your Facebook pages, she has very little. You have all the information on how to contact you and everything. Yeah.
And
noticed that
that's
right
just a testament to her humility, because for her, self-promotion sometimes feels like bragging, and she doesn't really even have to, because the business comes to her
Right.
without her doing it. So that's been a real lesson for me too, is that you don't always have to be promote.
Right.
Sometimes it's just that.
Well, let's jump right into the nitty gritty. Now, Brooke, you get into real estate first, if I read correctly on LinkedIn. So where were you at and what attracted you to real estate? Did you know somebody and said, hey, you'd make a great real estate agent? Or you yourself kind of said, I want to be and I'm going to go.
Well, we had, as a family, we had gotten to a place where I was interested in real estate years prior. I even actually got my license. Wasn't the right time for a family. So I ended up not using my license at all. And fast forward a couple years later, and I decided to jump in again. We were in a better place as a family financially. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. And yeah, I had a mentor that kind of took me under her wing, and I joined EXP, and I learned so much the first year. And
now, is this a friend or someone you actually sort of searched out? Did you know them before?
It was a friend. Our kids had played ball together. And
Okay.
It was a friend, and she was in real estate, and she brought me under her wing and mentored me, and I learned a lot, and I'm super grateful for that, because I was kind of like a right place at the right time kind of thing. And that first year I think I did 27 transactions, and I was just blown away that I didn't really have the confidence. If I had known.
Well, those are exceptional numbers first year, for well above the average, obviously. So anyone listening right now, their first question is, okay, Brooke either has this like magical talent, or what is it that you did in that? That's the question I ask often, especially in those first 6 months to get you off the ground. So tell us some things that you remember that this mentor kind of really put your nose to it and made you do.
Well, I mean, it was really, confidence is a big thing. Finding a mentor is a big,
Helped you a lot.
yes, absolutely. Helped to build my confidence, helped to just kind of guide me on everything. But I think too, probably whatever brokerage you choose, just make sure that you're going to have somebody that's going to help guide you along the way. That's the biggest thing for me.
But just give us some real nuts and bolts. I mean, I imagine, did they make you go immediately after your sphere?
So
what are some of those things that?
Well, what I did was I followed another agent around. I just rode
Shadowed
with them. I followed them around. I watched them open boxes. I listened to the conversations they were having all day long. So I did that every day, like for a couple of weeks, and until the language started becoming familiar to me, and and it wasn't. I mean, it was really just listening.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, your linchpin to getting a really good jump start was confidence. By shadowing the other agent, gave you confidence.
Absolutely. I don't like to jump into anything that I'm not confident in myself.
Right. You want to know what's around the corner.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm not one of these fake it till you make it kind of people. I'm like, I really want to know what I'm doing before I, big deal. Someone's buying a house, that's like one of the biggest transactions they'll ever in their life.
One thing I think is well, again, over listening to 100 plus agents, top producers, what part they're shadowing. So you're taking that's an education itself. You're educating yourself on, the phrases, the questions that you could get, and how do you answer them? How do you handle this situation? So you're building up that. But when it comes to the more formal education piece, whether it's going to NEFAR and not just taking enough to have your CE credits, but actually going to numerous, contract classes, hearing it from different people. How did that play any part in that initial part of your confidence?
Oh, absolutely. It's important to follow somebody around and hear the everyday conversations, but going to every class you can go to, hop on or when you're driving around, listening to podcasts, listening to all the different scenarios that we'll deal with. So yeah, the formal education is a big must.
Okay. Excellent. I think that's one of the things that is neglected. I think too many agents, that's why so many fail out, right? There are so many classes being education being offered every day, whether it is at NEFAR or at the St. John's board, or a lender's putting on a class, or a title company's putting on a class. There's something every day going on that if you're not doing something, you should be there.
Yeah. And that's not just in the beginning when I first started. I learned something new every day. So, and that's where the listening, stopping and just listening comes in really handy, because I pick up every single day.
All right. So she's in real estate now. You're in real estate. How long before Tammy?
Almost, was it a year? I think I had been in for a year, and she was working at the hospital as a dietitian, and she was working her tail off.
Crazy hours.
And I'm like, you work so hard, and you just don't have the return. I mean, I just know that if you applied that, you just jumped into real estate with me, and you applied that here, you'll be rewarded for it, because she just had the personality, and and she loved people. She was always nurture, or loving on the people at the hospital.
So sister's knocking on your door.
Right. Well, and it was a pandemic, and I was having a baby, my second baby, and I was ultimately not happy or satisfied with my career because I wasn't able to love on people the way I wanted to. So that made me frustrated. And then, obviously the financial aspect. So, and I saw, and knowing what I know of my sister.
Of course, she racks up 27 the first year.
Sure.
You're like,
So knowing
did she show you one of her commission checks?
She did.
Okay.
She did. Knowing what I knew of her, that she was shy, or, more private and stuff, and that she had that success, it really did give me the confidence. I owe everything to her, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I had to do something. I was ready to be a Shipt shopper or an Uber driver at that point. I was at that point of like, strap that baby in a papoose, and what are we going to do? And so she and the team leader brought me over to EXP, and again, so grateful, because I will say, when you're asking about the knowledge in the classes, but ultimately for a new agent to hop onto a team where the systems and the processes are already in place, and there's already a database of leads that you can work, and then you've got some accountability as well. Really good recipe for someone to get started if you're not somebody that's going to be intrinsically motivated to just go out and start door knocking your first day and have that confidence, right? And also just to teach the technicals. How do you even write a contract? Is someone going to be there to read your contract? I mean, she read every single one of my contracts that I wrote for my first 10 transactions, which I had in the first 4 months of joining that team.
Awesome.
Because I was hungry, right? But then I realized that I was also bringing a lot of my sphere and generating a lot of my own business. And once I kind of learned it, team environment wasn't the best fit for my personality. So I made the decision. Well, first of all, I started researching, right? Like, because EXP is a fantastic brokerage, and there's pockets of great teams and whatever. But when I decided I was going to leave the team, it kind of left me feeling a little lonely. Like, she was still going to be there, which was fine. I had her, but I wanted a community of real life people that I could see and touch and sit down and have coffee with. And that's not something that EXP is well known for. But so I started asking around to my other agent friends in the community that were at all kinds of brokerages around town that just happened to be friends. And what I would hear repeatedly was, well, if I wasn't where I am, I'd probably be at Momentum. And they'd be like, why don't you come here? I'm like, why don't I go to Momentum? You join me there when you're ready. And so I sat down with John Brooks, and we talked for a long time. And really, my goals weren't even big enough to start off with. And I know he saw that and kind of smiled, because I did shatter those goals. That first year, I sold 35 homes.
So you made me think of something because you mentioned your sphere. She had a great start. You had a great start. What happens now? She's in the business for a year, and then her sister comes in the business, and I know you have overlapping spheres
Mhm.
for
So
sure.
we a couple times, in situations like that, and we just say, hey, we'll split. And that kind of the couple that we did end up splitting, it was like, why don't we just kind of do this full time?
Right, right.
It works out.
Well, and we've always just been, I mean, ultimately, if I was homeless on the street, I could go live on her couch, right? And the same goes. And so there's that
For a
ultimate.
couple days anyway.
Hopefully. Yeah, I wear out my wall. The thing is that there's like a love and a humility that goes, I want this as much for you as I want it for me. And really, we would never take food out of each other's mouth, so to speak, or whatever. So my success is her success anyway. And, but yeah, so there were times when it would be like, yeah, somebody we mutually knew would be like, I don't know who to reach out to. Or even people in the business that are other people in our family that are in the business. They'd be like, oh, this is so awkward. I don't know what to do.
Right.
Hey, let us both help you.
Well, I think it's great that you guys, well, I mean, the fact that the big part is that you guys do seem to fit together your personalities in that niche, and you want both best for both of you. Now that you've actually, listed yourself as a team, I would imagine now they don't feel so bad to call because they figure it's going to both of you anyway as a team. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're both at EXP. If I saw correct, was about like 5 months or so you were at EXP. Okay. Now, when you talk about the team, I want to break it the team because my vision of EXP is, as real estate is in general, it is a big multi-level marketing type thing. EXP doesn't hide that part of it when they go out and you're sponsoring people and recruiting, because obviously, hopefully you have the intentions to help them get their business going to benefit you. That's why you recruited them in, not just to have another real estate agent on the list, right?
Right.
So, but whether you're part of the team because you feed from it, but if you were recruited by the same person who runs a team-like structure, does that person still, even though you want to be a solo, and you can kind of give color to this, of how that actually works, because I just kind of, agents out there are thinking or jumping brokerages of which one fits for them. Is a solo agent at EXP kind of less, do you feel like you're just not being given any attention, or is it more you're better off being a team in your opinion at EXP?
I mean, I don't think so, not necessarily. I mean, EXP, I had no problem with it really. It's just that, I don't know, you just get more of a local feel, the local brokerage, they get together frequently. So I don't think I don't think either being on a team or an individual with that brokerage I think either way.
Well, I asked because, I'm listening to Dustin Brome, who's a big EXP agent at the Massive Agent podcast, and I sent him a message. I want to try to get him on the show. So, but he even talks about when he left his brokerage and went to EXP, him and his broker broke on good terms, and they actually refer each other agents, seeing who could fit it. If it's not a good EXP structure, he refers them over and say, hey, you should probably work with this local brokerage over here. He's a really great person. So not everyone fits in everything. And if you guys want to expand on, or overlapping the question here, but how important it is to find the right broker, especially when you're new, or if you're struggling, to step back and take some time to find that right broker who's going to fit with you. Brooke, I think you got lucky, right? You matched up with this great mentor.
Right.
If they're not a great mentor, where would you have been out of real estate within a few months? Who knows, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I owe that whole thing.
Right. So that person is really good at working with people who are new.
Sure.
Absolutely. That's the great thing about real estate is, there's not just one broker. It's like you can choose what's your personality best.
Right.
There's so many to choose from. There's not one.
So a common question I ask, and each of you give me one question. If you were new, or maybe not getting the attention that you need at the brokerage you got, the mentorship and so forth, and you were going around and talking to brokers, maybe you asked John this question, I don't know. What would be a question as a real estate agent that you want to ask that broker when you're sitting down there, talking about possibly coming on their team?
Right. And it's funny because is not known for being a brokerage for new agents because, it's for people that are trying to get in the next level. Their
Mhm.
whole thing is teaching you about building a life of financial freedom and investment. And, he always says you get into real estate so you can get out of real estate eventually. And while we have a passion for it and we love it, I think when I'm 60 years old, I'm going to be tired and not wanting to work from the time my eyeballs open till they close. And, some of the luster might wear off. So I've got to be thinking big picture. And a lot of agents fail to plan or even think about how they're going to pay their taxes at the end of the year, much less what they're going to do for a retirement plan. And for me, what it appears to me is EXP says, "Oh, we've got this stock or whatever that may be up or down," but they're dependent on building a big team and
Mhm.
recruiting, which also sometimes puts a taint on their people go, "Oh,
Well, there's certain people for that.
right."
Not everyone's a recruiter.
Absolutely.
But the
Yeah.
thing that, so I follow a lot of big EXP people, and I think that those people have built their own little mini brokerage within EXP. There's Daniel Beer, there's Ricky Caruth, and so they've built a big social media presence and they attract a lot of people. And I know from someone that's at EXP that with the Ricky Caruth crew that they have a personal connection. He flies over and he meets with them. Ricky calls them during the day, like a real connection. So no shade to that whatsoever. But for somebody asking a brokerage, where should I go? Like Momentum created Ascend for those agents. So you get that mentorship.
Mhm.
So you get that's a little more hand holding by top producing agents that are incentivized by ownership of Ascend to help create it. So it's almost like a mini version of that. But ultimately, sometimes agents are just asking the wrong question. They're saying, "Oh, do you have a CRM?" And
Yeah.
it's like, because they don't know what to ask.
Right.
You
No.
don't know what you don't know. Do you have a
Yeah, this is a
CRM
great,
or something like
and this is a great piece. We were talking earlier about YouTube, and I was going in and I have someone kind of feeds me some, hey, these are hot trending titles in your niche, right? Um, and there is a lot of videos out there. I won't say a lot. There's some, people talking about whether it's on a reel or a 10-minute video talking about choosing your brokerage. But, to sit there and, create 20 reels on this is a question you need to ask your brokerage. Those over time are going to get a lot of attention because I really feel it's like Heather sat here last week and said, yeah, every broker wants you unless you're like Ingalls and Volcker who they want you to have certain volume or something like that. Every broker wants you to come on. Its question is, are they the fit for you? And
for sure.
and right there. And I had when I had John on, and I had John and Brittany on separately on the show, but their business savvy is so out there. I mean, for 30-year-old, I mean,
incredible.
they are amazing people, and I talk to John occasionally, but yeah, they're business savvy, like you're talking about. At 60, what do I want to be doing? Or even you're young, even at 50, what are you going to be doing, right? Do you want a team, or are you going to function? I think real estate's something you can do to the day you die if you want to, but you want to start tapering it off at some point where you're only dealing with certain clients, right? And then you hand it off, to another agent or maybe someone on your team to those other ones. But yeah, having that plan. And it's, as John talks about, going to all these award ceremonies where they're awarding these people with all these numbers. But when he dug into it, a lot of these people were broke. They are living one house to the next house, 1 month to the next month, hoping to get their closings, even though they've got so many. And it's great to get that pats on the back. But as you get older, you realize you cannot like eat that trophy. You can't melt it down. It's not worth anything.
Oh, sure.
It's what you actually got in your bank
So
account.
certainly we love, we just found out yesterday that Brooke and I are in the top 10 of all momentum agents for all of 2022. And so does that make us feel great? We also found we're in the top 500 agents for all of Northeast Florida in the past week.
Mhm.
So those feel really good. Of course, it's really good to market those things because it helps build confidence for our customers in what we do. But John's also on the backside teaching us how do we do an S corp for our taxes so that we can figure out how to do some write-offs, and how are we going to save a bigger percentage of the money that we make. And then with that money, how are we going to live a lifestyle of delayed gratification so that later we have investments that are the passive income that's paying for the lifestyle we want to live.
100%. I love that you mentioned the taxes, because our keynote speaker, I assume you're going to RE Bar Camp on Friday.
We
All
are.
right, we'll see you there. And our keynote speaker talks about Marky Lemons Rihal. When I had her on the podcast a few weeks ago, one of the biggest killers of agents is when they get that IRS and they didn't save it up, and now they owe the IRS all this money. And so now there's certain ways to recover from that. The IRS is not, and they'll give you time to pay it back, but it could put you in a psychological situation where you can't function anymore. And to have that guidance up front, not just a class. The class is important. You should sit down because now you know that you need to find out more information, and then actually sit down with somebody who's actually going to dig in, knows your business, and can really simplify it for you so you can get back out prospecting again, because doing taxes is not making you any money.
Well, and it's not a favorite thing of any of us. We wouldn't be in real estate, the people business, if we liked sitting behind a spreadsheet.
Right.
But the crazy thing about what a savant John is that spreadsheets are his jam, and
Mhm.
he loves looking at them. As a matter of fact, he was kind enough to say, anybody that wants to send me your P&L, I'll go through it with you and help you get a game plan of how
Right.
to where to focus on shiny objects and where to run lean. So I think that's a huge benefit and something that more agents should focus on.
We're going to give Brooke a chance to talk here because you answered the question. You kind of gave a story behind some of the things that were important to you. You're sitting in front of a prospective broker. You're trying to find out whether or not you want to work with that person. What is something that advice, a question or two that you would give a new agent or an agent looking to move? Or these are certain things you want to know.
Well, one is where are you going to be when I need you? Will you sit down with me and I have lunch with you? Can we have a conversation? I think that's important. You know, to have a relationship with your broker and definitely get that where we're at. But also, I think what the brokerage teaches is important too. Like how often you bring a speaker in, how often together.
Added value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I think definitely found that it's been great.
I'm going to go on I'm going to keep this short because you guys have better information there, but my little soapbox on I'm seeing a lot going on recently. I talked about this a few weeks ago. It tapered down over the holidays, but like bringing in these panels, right? They're not prepared to talk about anything. I mean, they're given maybe a subject, maybe, but it's so general. They're not prepared. And you guys have so much time in your day. You've got kids, you're dealing with this, you're dealing with that. You got to be prospecting primarily. That's our number one job, right? And they're bringing in a panel who doesn't actually have prepared material. And when it comes to added value, like I said, bringing in that speaker, that's actually, you're going to leave with something. And when the event planner needs to think about that when they're planning that person to come in or don't have someone come in, make it an event, make sure that every person that's in that room leaves with something. It may be different from that speaker, that everyone gets something different from everybody else, but they're going to leave with something of value. And I think too often it's just a routine thing they do. Oh, I got a speaker coming in. Okay. Well, what is he going to speak about? Well, I don't know. He's just, no, we need like zero this in. They always tell us to stay focused, right? Stay focused on the prospecting, and that'll make well, stay focused on what you're going to deliver to us because we don't have a lot of time. There's other things I'd rather be doing,
Right.
but that's my little soapbox.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I would say the thing to wrap that up is when you go to those panels or whatever it is, the value you're going to get, if you have a brokerage or mentor that's going to circle back and have some accountability about implementation, now what action are you going to take? Whatever nugget you take away, if you don't do any action after you leave that, you might as well have just watched a movie on Netflix and gone about your day, right? Like it's not, why did you even come to the thing if you weren't going to take action? You know, when they had Elizabeth Curry, one of the big real estate coaches come, a lot of our agents, bought into her mentoring, and they're doing big talks. Chris Moore's doing a big talk because he started getting with this coach. I mean, really, when Brittany did the Be the Buffalo thing, that was at, some prodding by her coach. And so for me, the speakers are important, but somebody, like she said, I mean, I couldn't tell you what my broker at EXP looked like, what his face looked like, because I didn't even see a picture,
Right.
And I text with Brittany just about every day.
Right. And as big as how many agents now they got over there?
About 200.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the two of them are amazing. We could talk about that forever. We'll make that a reel, John. Right. So let me get it. So were you looking? Because you go over to Momentum first. So you were sort of looking, and you ran into John. So again, and we'll cut this out for a reel for John and Brittany right here. So you went over, you sit down, just you, right? She wasn't with you. Did you talk to both of them together or just John?
I think Brittany was on maternity leave for
Okay.
her.
So you sit down with John. Who's the first person you call when you leave? Okay. Tell me what you told her.
Yeah, I was told her I'm going to do this. I'm so excited. You know, at the time, before they had Ascend, they had a mentorship program because even though I was having success at EXP, I was still a new agent, only 5 months in, and I was a little nervous. And so I knew that I wanted to be independent, but with some way out of, like, I didn't want to join a team and be stuck in a team. And also I wanted to build my own database because your database is ultimately the only thing you own in real estate, right? So if you're going to be on a team that makes you close out every transaction in their name and they retain all the database, then you're not building a business for the future. So that was one thing I liked, but momentum.
Okay. So that was happening at EXP. It was actually that all your production was technically going under one person's. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. And then I, had to start from ground zero when I left that team because anybody I had working with, I had to cease and desist and then, start new. So then that's just how teams go because they invest so much money into their systems and processes. So it makes sense, right? They have to protect themselves. But so anyway, owning your database. So, he had talked about all that and I was excited about having the mentorship program. I was excited about the transparency. He gave me the number of phone numbers about 6 of their top agents, didn't prep them that I was calling. He said, just call them and see what they say of their own volition. And had some great conversations. I got paired with Shauna Clark, who's a top producing agent at Momentum.
Should I have Shauna on the show?
Oh,
I think she's come across, that name's come across my radar one time or another.
Oh, she's
I have to disclose to everyone. Last week, Toby and Jenna were on. They had just moved to Momentum and I had already booked them to come on before they made that move. So I try not to have 2 brokerages, the same brokerage on both weeks or, real close together, but it happened. So,
yeah. So anyway,
so you pump her up. All right. How long is it before you start checking this out or what?
It wasn't very long. I knew that she had done the research and, I trust her. I trust her with my life. So I knew that if she felt that was the place to go, that it was a good place to go.
Okay. So that means you kind of had some thoughts in your head.
No, I had no intention. I was going to stay. I was,
well, you're not the trailblazer. Yeah.
Right? I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. I know this. I know the processes.
Right.
I'm just going to stick.
Right. How many brokerages did you talk to before coming to John? Or
I researched,
even after John?
Unofficially, I researched 4 or 5, just talking word of mouth to people that were at those brokerages.
All right. How important is it for that agent that we're talking about that's researching brokerages, new or want to move, to call some of the agents that actually are part of that brokerage? How important is that?
I think it's more important than talking to the broker. The most important thing for sure.
Brooke, what would you ask? I'm trying to give her some airtime.
I mean,
what's a question as an agent to agent that you would want to dig into?
Are you happy there? What are the things you know about your brokerage? Did your brokerage, are you able to your broker with question? Just like the questions I would ask the broker, but I feel like you get more of an honest response from their agent. Because
they might be thinking themselves, they might be, if someone called Tammy 4 months into EXP, she probably would have said, I'm not really 100% on sure ground here. I'm not confident.
Tell me the
what's
things
going
you
on.
love about your brokerage and what value they bring. So that would be my questions. And that's probably a lot of the things you ask the broker or the folks from the brokerages you were looking at. But yeah, when she called me and, this is the place and okay, well, good luck. I think you're going to have great success. I know you will. And it didn't take long before she hit the ground running and I was like, it'd be really nice to be able to do this together.
John and Brittany take an angle on the financials, right? The business, running it as a business. How did that resonate with you? Obviously it resonated with Tammy. She immediately clicked like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. When she's talking about that with you, did a light bulb go off?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't have out of my comfort zone if it had not. So I had a couple conversations with John, and the first couple of times I was like, well, just happy where I'm at. But then after having a couple of conversations with him and the meeting with Brittany, and I really felt like it was the best week for me. And if I really wanted to grow, then that's where I needed it.
Well, in that community, because there was times because she left the team at EXP and was independent, but then she'd be like, hey, do you know someone that could be a showing assistant? Do you know someone over there that'd be willing to hold an open house? Do you know someone that knows how to deal with this particular situation that came up, prior to closing. And so I was, sharing some of those resources with her across the line, so to speak. And so she saw that value too. And it was like, wow, we're really helpful over there.
And I said that, well, this would be a lot easier if we were just at the same brokerage and working together.
Hey folks, this episode was produced by Streamline Media, the #1 media company for helping brands generate content that converts. I knew I wanted to start a podcast to reach more people and bring value to the world, but I did not have the time or the knowledge. Streamline Media became my secret weapon to building my show. They handle all my back-end work, production, and strategies to keep my show going strong. If you're in the real estate business and looking to make content that generates more leads and brings in more revenue, check out the Streamline Media link in the show notes and discover how partnering up can supercharge your path to real estate excellence.
When you look at all the different things that an agent does, right? Prospecting and marketing, you obviously have the nuts and bolts of working through a listing or working with a buyer's agent, showing houses, doing the contract, if you're doing a listing, pricing the home out correctly, helping them get the home ready and all that type of stuff. And then you have the thing we don't talk about a lot, what I think John does more than anyone else, is the business aspect of what you do. So you are financially confident, to use your word that you've used several times, like the confidence in that he's brought that light upon that. And when you look at, like, if you were breaking this pie down of the what you do every day, how important is having that block of time, whether it's monthly or weekly, that you're actually sitting down and doing your business part of it to make sure you guys do have money for marketing, and this is going to that. You're paying yourselves enough money to do and invest and that sort of thing. Now, was it really part of your game plan at EXP? And what percentage do you think that should be of a real estate agent to really be successful?
Well, I mean, we're at EXP because I was on a team at first. That was, there's a accountability being on a team. So you're kind of just told what to do it. But once a transitioned over to Momentum, I mean, that's a big part of business. You do have to work on your business, on your business, not just in your business.
Right.
And they taught us how to do that effectively. And so it's, it's part of it. You can't just.
So now that you guys are a team, the JAX Listing Sisters, and it's only been a short period of time, so you can't say, hey, what have you guys been doing all last year? But now that are you setting aside time to have that company meeting? Is it something, as a real estate agent, do you need to do that weekly, or maybe just like, a few hours a month that you need to sit down, get your financials in line? Here's our commissions for the month. We need to put so much over here and that sort of thing. How much time do you think you actually will spend on it on a weekly, monthly basis that you need to really focus on that?
Well, we are only in our second quarter of being a team, so we're obviously still working through logistics. To be transparent, we don't have it all figured out. And, we certainly have our ideas of how things should go, and we have conversations every day. But because in the past few years, the market was so booming, agents barely had time to take a breath. It was just keep moving.
Feast or famine, I call it in this business. It was feasting time, so you just go out and grab as much as you can.
Right. So it was busy. And then, so it's only been relatively recently when things slowed down that we were able to start. And I did of course, again, she focused on helping our mom rehabilitate after her illness and a lot of family stuff. And then she was also a lot of boots and integrator stuff. And I took that time when it was a little slower to build our branding, to build our social media websites, to start figuring out our processes, where we're going to, and some wrong turns also of like shiny objects, trying this out. Are we going to do, all the things? We're going to do the bomb and the YLOPO and the this and then that. Are we going to buy Zillow? We're not going to buy Zillow. What are going to be our lead generation pillars? Right. And she's pretty easygoing with most of the decisions. Do we like this logo, or not? But then, do we have it set as a defined time? No, I would say that John and Brittany do a good job of setting up like Momentum Champions, which is their top producers, time to sit down and to do that, to go over the numbers. And so you can participate in that, or you could.
So do they, you guys may not participate longer. Do they actually want everyone to bring in their numbers, bring in their computer. And even though they may be talking to the group, that everyone's working on their individual things, where their leads came from, how much do they spend on marketing or lead buys or whatever it is,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah, they stress the importance of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
And it's a frequent class that they put on.
Right. So they set it as a Zoom appointment. You know, you get your stuff ahead of time. You don't have to share your stuff with everybody, but at least they're there at a certain set time to ask a question of, you know, who are you using for your accounting, and or did I fill out this form right, or whatever it is. And the good thing is that a lot of people are really willing to share and be transparent with what they are using. What
Yeah. That's what I love about John and Brittany. They really, you say that, you know, keep doing the right things and doing it. To me, I think I feel they do the right things. Obviously you guys do too. They're doing the right things. They want you guys, when you're successful, they will become successful, and have that simple mindset. And but they're obviously they're very focused individuals and very good at it. I can't say much more about it. All right. From where we're at, so the Chat GPT, I've been talking about it the last few episodes. I had to create some questions for us of artificial intelligence. I said, I got Tammy. Here's what I asked ChatGPT. Tammy and Brooke are two sisters who have formed a real estate team. Create 10 questions that would be unique, interesting, and something not often asked top real estate teams. Okay. So here's what it is. Question number 1. We'll kind of do as much rapid fire as we can. What is the most unusual property you have ever sold, and how did you go about marketing it?
Oh gosh.
I think the jet set.
Oh, yeah. I was kind of thinking opposite, like the worst property or.
Unique,
yeah, so,
unique property. Unusual, most unusual. That's what it says.
That's great. That's a good one. So yeah, there's a Edgewood Lane. It was a home that had become very popular on social media. They are family members of ours, but so I guess it's an Instagram famous house. So she became very popular on Instagram. It's right in St. Johns County.
For what reason? How did this?
So they started an Instagram page just to kind of document their building of their dream home.
Okay.
And it was a farmhouse, a modern farmhouse.
Yeah, the jet set farmhouse. So they built it themselves, like literally cut the wood on their land to make a lot of the planks and things like that. And then as they built this influencer page, they also were able to get some sponsorship, some things towards their home. And they built this just really incredible home.
Right.
And so it's become, she's become even.
But then they decided to sell it.
Yes. So that wasn't the plan. It just, the market was where the market was. And that, they had intended for that to be their permanent home forever. And because the market was so great, and they were like, and they loved the process of doing it. They said, well, I would do it again. Let's just sell it and do it again. And so, I had to sell that one. And it was, it didn't last on the market very long.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, the market being so hot and just being a brand new, unique. And I imagine, like you said, they put the carpentry and everything else in it high above your, run-of-the-mill builder out here.
It was very custom. And it was just funny because the person who ended up buying it was someone who had followed along on the process the whole way.
Oh, cool.
And knew the house, and as it came on the market, they were like, "We want that house."
They already knew what it knew what was inside.
They saw the whole process.
All right.
At
Very cool.
$1.5 million. So it wasn't like it was just a
easy
house to buy.
Right.
But they ended up actually writing a book about that process. Noelle Jett did, the wife.
So have they started another one, or?
They bought the property and they're starting it.
Cool.
Very cool.
How do you handle difficult clients or difficult situations that may arise during a real estate transaction? I like to say this is answered best by a story, but go ahead.
Well, I would say if it's me, before I
you hand them off to Brooke.
Before I say or do anything I regret, I call Brooke and she de-escalates, and then she steps in and she becomes the point man on that particular transaction. But, different people are suited to different things. But I think one of my other talents is playing the long game and seeing the long game. So when I had these clients, I've probably fired 2 customers in my career, which is hard for me because I give people, so I go, but I'd had these particular buyers that had backed out of 4 contracts when it was really hard, multiple offers and really competitive.
Got them accepted, and then they backed out.
Over what I would consider maybe minor stuff, but they just weren't maybe ready, willing, and able or understanding the market. So it was frustrating because it felt like it was just, I didn't see the end of it. And at one point I actually did fire them, and then they came back to me a while back and they were like, look, you put so much into this. We are ready, willing, and able. we want you to try one more time with this one property. And I said, okay, let's do it. And we got it under contract and got it.
Okay.
across the line.
Here's the, how did you have that conversation? Tell me how you prepped yourself to fire them. Because I imagine you just say, hey, I don't want to deal with you anymore. You actually told them why.
No, probably not.
You
I
probably,
mean, so when
you
I
stopped
have a
calling
lot
them
of,
back? I mean, how'd you
no,
do?
I have a lot of my epiphanies when I'm running. I run about 30 miles a week, and that's about the only time I am
Mhm.
not talking to somebody or having one of my small children or whatever. So it clears my mind and I can get some clarity. And I was literally about 2.5 miles into a run, just kind of playing it through my head. And I just stopped right where I was at running, paused my running app, boop, boop, boop. Hey guys, you know what? I just don't think we're a good fit. You know, if you're okay, I'm going to refer you to somebody that's out in that area. And they
Mhm.
read the writing. They're like, oh, you know, we understand. So they actually came to our, we had a client appreciation event over the holidays, and they were some of the people that showed up. And so,
Cool.
you know, and I consider us friends. We're going to watch the Bama game, you know, when Alabama plays, we're going to watch a game together and stuff. So which is to say, sometimes when you think it's not going to work out, or people say, oh, protect your time in real estate. Sometimes if you just keep at it, it does pan out.
Mhm. So at this point, you guys weren't clicking, whatever it was, obviously pulling out of 4 offers that you got accepted. That's, one that rips your heart out, but it was taking too much of your thoughts, taking too much of your time, was being drawn to this negative situation. Is that kind of where you kind of came to that conclusion when you were running?
It did. It was weighing a lot on my psyche. And then also just from a purely financial standpoint, when you start doing the math, where's the price point? What's the potential
Mhm.
income and how much actual money? I don't think people really realize that real estate agents spend so much money before they ever get paid, right?
Mhm.
We're paying showing agents. We're spending gas, which is not cheap. We're paying all this time. We're paying someone, watch our kids or do other admin stuff so that we can be out showing them properties. We're
Mhm.
paying for all the fees and all the subscriptions. And at some point, when you start to add up the money that you've put into it, either on a listing side or a buyer's side, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to pan out, or that you might be upside down financially, we just can't afford to work for free
Right.
upside down. So I was starting to kind of get to that point, and that's what made me do it.
All right, Miss Nurture, have you had a difficult client? Have you fired one?
I don't
I knew the
think
answer was going to be
I
no.
don't think I have it in me to fire anyone. I don't know that I ever have. And I have probably,
You've had
I've
some,
suffered.
yeah.
I've suffered a few, but yeah, I just,
You have some, then you must be having at some point where they've reached your boiling point,
right.
where how do you, what are some of the things that you kind of said to like simmer them down?
I have had to have several of those conversations where you have to sit them down and tell them, okay, you're just not being realistic, and this is, if you decide you want to go talk to another agent, absolutely, because I just know that I feel very strongly about this is the way it should be. You just need to trust my advice, and you can't,
The confidence is coming out in her there.
Well,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
I
see how
think so.
she gently lets them off. You want to fire me, I'm okay with it. I'm not firing you. And so that lets them know in a roundabout way. So
Right.
she's so good at that.
The takeaway. Okay. Can you share a success story of a particular challenging sale that you were able to close?
the one that comes top of mind.
I think, gosh, sometimes
They're
it
all
feels like every
challenging. They're all
Well,
challenging.
I'll change the question up. Maybe did you have someone call you up, say, for a listing appointment, and you walked into this house and like, whoa, this house is not ready to sell, not the clientele that I'm used to working with. And were you able to turn it around and get it done? Have you had anything?
Oh, for sure. I think what a lot of agents are experiencing right now is maybe a little less so right now, but particularly right when the market shifted, was that the sellers were still in the mindset of the strong sellers market. Buyers, when the interest rates went up, were in the mindset of, and so we were seeing so many extended days on market, back on markets, and they're asking for repairs, drawn, all those things. And it was all indicative to us when we were looking at the data of exactly what was happening, was that sometimes agents were, and I've been guilty of it, of accepting a listing where the seller was not realistic with their price point. It was overpriced, and you were going to have to do price drops, even though you go through the whole, explanation of why that would harm them in the long run. And so we've gotten a little better at like really holding strong about where we need to start and why why it's a bad idea to
Mhm.
start high. But even in the heat of the market, I know I had one in particular that was really hesitant to do a price drop or to nudge, and was just even making it difficult for me
Do
to
you,
show the property.
so, again, you've, a little over a quarter, you guys been working more together, but you've always been spinning off each other, we would call it. The clients that you're talking about, we're seeing a lot of it where these houses that are sitting for 60, 90 days is because most of them is because they're not priced right to begin with. So they're caught in this thing where if you price it right, you may even get multiple offers and get more than what you're asking for, which may take you to where they're at. But so how do you, between the two of you and your yin and your yang situation, have you guys had that situation yet as sisters to kind of, you're telling them, hey, you needed to price this at 400,000. They're saying, no, we want 425. We got to have 425, and then spin it over to Brooke, or vice versa, to have the other person come in and be the good bad, good cop, bad cop situation. Yeah.
Oh, I think we always try to come as a united front. So,
Mhm.
We discuss it between us before we even bring up a price point to, what we think it should be listed for.
Right.
I don't think we ever try to come say that.
Oh, I actually jokingly call us good cop, bad cop sometimes in our personal life, because even when we're trying to like encourage our mother, or when we're advocating her for the hospital, Brooke would go in all honey, and then when things really hit the fan, I'd come in
Kick the
blazing.
chair.
So I was like, okay, let's do, and then she'd have to do damage control behind me. But at the end of the day, we got the thing
Right.
done. But also, we tend whoever kind of bonds with the primary point of contact in the transaction, we don't overstep bounds a whole lot. I mean, we're supportive. We go to listing appointments together. We do buyer consults together, but one person usually naturally matches with the customer the best, or is more connected to them, and then we just kind of let them take the lead.
Yeah, it's a question I've asked especially a lot of the couples that have come on, whether it's the male and female, and they want to go to her because it's the mom thing, or maybe they feel they can be more straight with him and don't want to upset her. Where you're probably going to notice this year as you guys do more and more transactions together, who they call when there is those questions, after that, no matter you could have talked the whole time and Brooke sat there and smiled. They're calling Brooke.
Which is totally fine by me.
Yes, exactly. Okay. I'm going to skip down here. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're talking about the market and the market changing here a little bit. Can you share a unique strategy or tactic that you've used to successfully market a property? Or, I would actually just change the end of it, whether it's, what we saw last summer, the many multiple offers. I think we're starting to see that happen occasionally now, where especially in the right hot price point, you are getting 2 or 3 offers, type of thing. But what are some tactics that you guys use maybe to get your buyer's offer accepted?
Again, as we're seeing so many agents that are going back to their 9-to-5s because they got into the business when it was booming, and they were able to get some low-hanging fruit and get a market share of the business, but they never really learned how to actively market property. And we know that a property only doesn't sell because it's either, overpriced or under market. So now that the market's shifting, you'll see some of the more experienced agents kind of a little smug because they see now that it's their time to shine, because they remember the times when it was the crash of 08 and things like that, of what you really had to do to get a property sold.
Right.
And so we're paying attention, and we know that too. So we go in right off the bat. We have 2 listings right now that were with other agents that basically didn't do a great service to their sellers, and it sat through the market shift. And now we're coming in and got them under contract. So the thing is that we talk about how we do go hard and actively market on all fronts. We pay real money for ads. We get it up on social media. We share it. We blast it out to all the 7,000 or 8,000 agents via email blast and into all our database. We do a postcard mailer campaign and all those things.
In each of you make comment on that. I mean, how important is it, even though when, like last summer when it was hot and you would have offers before you can put the sign in the yard, to still go through the standard procedures of the things that you're talking about things out, having an open house, taking the right pictures. How important is that for your brand that you're wearing there on your t-shirts? How important is that to do that every time with every single customer? Because whether it's really hot and you like, well, I spent that extra $500 or whatever to do all that, but now you're like, do I need to spend $1,000 to move that house? Right. So how important is it, like, when you're creating that brand to do those regimented and do things of high quality to create that reputation?
I mean, I feel like we stay consistent. We just do the same thing every time.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, if something's not working, we will find
Tweak it.
other things. We give every one of our customers the same love and promote
Right.
their
Well,
property the same.
And the fact is that for such a large community of Jacksonville, the real estate communities, Jacksonville's a small town.
Mhm.
Agents know other agents, and you do build that reputation of being easy to work with, friendly, kind, or you burn some bridges, and then it comes back when your buyer's up against multiple offers. And if you've not built that reputation as somebody that's likable and easy to work with, the listing agent has more power than I think a lot of people realize in helping guiding their sellers of, this offer might have a certain price point, but did we vet the buyer's lender? Did we, is it something online that was just cranking out pre-approvals? Did we vet that the agent's got a history of being like a sneaky snake in the past, and that they're going to pull something, or they're not going to get it across the finish line, or even show up until closing? So that's why our customers trust us, because we know, we pay attention of giving them that extra guidance of like, let's look at the whole package.
Right. So you mentioned something there, and I'd like to and get your guys' comment on it. You mentioned, these listing agent, obviously knowing your reputation. How important is it that you can't make all of these social events? There's, again, like educational events all around, all over the place. There's one every day. If you wanted to find one, there is one. Just go to Landmark Title. They probably have 3 this week. But how important is to show up at some of those and actually, mix and mingle or meet some of the other agents. So now that they have actually met you face to face and they know a little bit about you, so you're not shy, or they're not shy calling you because they met you at one time and shook your hand and exchanged business cards or what. How important is showing up, to some of these social events and making and meeting and greeting the other agents?
Well, it's definitely a good thing to do. I haven't been able to do it as much as I would have liked,
Mm.
especially over the last couple of months with everything going on with mom. But I do think it is important to get out and network with others and title companies and just everyone. 'Cause at some point you will run across them, and it would be nice to have a relationship. Definitely makes things go smoother if they trust you, know you.
I think Brooke doesn't give herself enough credit that while she may not be showing up at the public events a lot, behind the scenes, she freely gives of herself to mentor other agents all over the place.
Yeah.
And so she has spent hours at 10 p.m. at night with a new agent, helping them figure out how to write a vacant land contract of her own time,
Mhm.
and we both have. And so, I always kind of say, like, how does Melissa Ricks, like, how is she at every event? Like, that woman is supernatural.
Yeah, yes.
And, sell more houses than any of us. Like, what is, is she human? But I look up to her a lot, and she's shown me the value of putting out value, and then the universe sends it back to you. I would say that's the same with client base, and that's a big part of getting on social media. I mean, obviously part of what you're doing here, right? Give us value. And then in the return, we've built this connection and this friendship.
Mhm.
But so, part of our social media strategy is to not, gatekeeping knowledge that we've had, and just say, hey, here's a task you use, because it's collaborative over competitive, and it still serves you best.
Our speaker, if you listen to her podcast that I had on, she talks about her father taught her to give, because she's at RE Bar Camp, Marky Lemon's Rio. She has over 100 some courses that she's written and so forth. That's why she was on the Chat GPT, because how it could cut her time down in creating, the technical parts of the courses, could do a lot of the writing for you. But anyway, she talks about her father being a competitive, the first Black owned barbecue restaurant in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
And how he had this long, long reputation there, and how he helped mentor other restaurant owners and so forth. And he told her competition is healthy. That's, it creates attention back to you. So you're continuing, and it makes you drive to be the best that you can be. I think Melissa Ricks takes that wholeheartedly. There was one week I talked to her and she's like, yeah, I'm on 3 panels this week.
Wow.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, she was on a panel somewhere. She's taking time out of her day to sit there, and there's nobody in that room that is doing business with her. There are other real estate agents, the loan officers that invite them in. She might be giving them business, but there was only benefit to her was showing up and continuing to be that presence. And again, I think the social media, we haven't dabbled into that, and we're going a long time, but the social media aspect of being seen as the expert, again, if you haven't listened to Melissa Rick's original podcast, because I did have her on like episode 30 something, and then had our team on episode 50.
Oh, wow.
But listen to her original one. I won't give out the secret, but you will find out why that woman has the energy behind her. Listen to that one. That's a really good one. So, all right. I'm gonna go with one last formal question here. Let me see which one. I want to just expand a little bit on what, at least right now, you guys have only, truly been the team, right, for just a few months. How do you guys, what's your organization? The question is, how do you stay organized and manage your workload effectively while working as a team? So do you have some roles that one is doing versus the other right now? Have you Brooke's handling back end? Like you said, you do go on listing appointments as much as you can together, that sort of thing. But do you have individual roles because you are yin and yang, that one person is doing better than the other, and so you just let that other?
Well, for sure, the social media part, she's definitely, that's all her.
Mhm.
I try, but I'm not the greatest at it. So I do let her have that part.
Mhm.
You just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I think I don't think we have roles for each other yet, other than
Right.
the social media piece. But
Yeah, so we're still working through that, and I think the end of this first year will really tell us where the dust settles and where the gaps are.
Yeah.
Because while we have different strengths and then we have some common strengths, we also have some common weaknesses that maybe one or the other can't fill, and so that's where we will fill that in, right? When we look back and run the numbers. And
What would you say the biggest weakness is between the two of you? Where are you? What's the one piece in the real estate puzzle that neither of you feel are confident or strong in?
getting organized and the systems and processes. But, and being the visionary, I do believe huge in like the touch program and investing back in that. She's the super frugal, person, and I'm the super not frugal person. And so we're coming together on that. And that's been just one of the biggest gifts of us. But figuring out where to be really fiscally responsible with how much we reinvest back in the business and where we reinvest it back in so that it's a good ROI. But then just getting super organized. And then the other piece, which, as you knew, trying to get us on here was like, trying to give a cat a bath or something, but is just taking that leap of faith and putting ourselves out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to, the authenticity and the vulnerability is what attracts people.
What do you feel like maybe having that, it's a big talk, the virtual assistants, or in your case, I think, between the two of you, I just see your volumes, blowing up from the standpoint of having, if you need a full-time person really to handle that administrative stuff, like making sure your CRM's tight, making sure, those top of mind emails and that sort of stuff is trickling out, kind of a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I think a lot of agents do in the late hours of the evening, early morning, when their kids are asleep, or, that type of thing, where they just sit down and go, I got to get this done, but it's never being done consistently to really accelerate, to have that one person kind of fill that piece.
So we've experimented with a couple different options of leverage over, even before we were truly a team, but together, I've hired a virtual assistant, I've hired in-person assistants, I've used a lot of showing agents. And so we found where some of that works. And, I've gone through different transaction coordinators. Right now, I think even though business is booming, our take on it right now is to run a lean business and really just get our systems in place that we want first. And then when it's already operational, then you start plugging people into place and be quick to hire, but also quick to fire. And that's something that's hard for us because we love people. We can't fire clients.
Right. Well, there's a lot of contractors
assistants
out there. There's a lot of people who are only, if you only need them for 10 hours a week or something, that there's a lot of that out there. Luke and Sadie Newcomer said one of the biggest regrets they ever had was not hiring that first I know, if they call it something else, I'm going to say transaction coordinator, but getting that first hire, not recruiting other agents, but actually for them as a couple and as their real estate team was hiring that first person to handle those things that were non-income producing things and behind the scenes, to let them go out and income produce. And Sadie's really an operational person. Luke's the one you see on Instagram all the time.
Right.
Sadie's making sure the home office is working great, but they had to get that transaction coordinator. And they said they waited about a year too long for that. So I'm just throwing that in
I mean,
there.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
I mean, we have used transaction coordinators, and showing assistance really is, why I think my volume or our volume is where it is, because we did have that support.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that is important.
I have my last informal question. Do you guys have anything you want to add? I always like to throw in, we can get a clip out of this, or if someone's listening at this point, why should someone use the JAX listing
You
system?
want to go first? No, you.
Well, I think, to have that wide variety of strengths that we bring, and that it's a 2-for-1 situation in our breadth of experience, having sold over 50 million in volume and 150 transactions, we know what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is not to say that there's not still so much to learn, but that also just knowing that, we're going to be with you long after the transaction closes. So if you're down here for 6 months a year and then you're going back up to your other home, wherever it is, as snowbirds, and there's a package on the, on the front door stoop, and you text us because we're your Florida friends, you don't even down. We're going to run over there and take the package inside the house, or check on things. And people know that about us, and they feel comfortable reaching out to us. We do stuff like that all the time for our folks. So we love on our people, and it comes back to us.
Yeah, they absolutely become like family. I mean, I've made some, friends that I've lifelong friends during this whole last couple of years. So yeah,
I'm gonna ask this question because that's often said by the top producers.
Yeah.
What both of you are saying, and creating that relationship afterwards, to know that that you are a friend. That if they get a flat tire in the middle of the night, you're someone that they should call. Hopefully they don't, but that they can call you. That they can rely on you. That you'll get up and go, or go help them, or whatever that is. Give me a couple of things that I think you mentioned earlier. You do have a customer appreciation event that you do. Is that something you do quarterly or yearly?
We just did our first one together at the holidays, and then we got together for our touch program. And I think this year we've decided, everyone does like the pop buys for certain holidays, but we definitely want to do our holiday one again. We're going to do something this summer, whether it be renting out a movie theater, or doing a jump house or something really family, because we do work with some investors and things like that, but we do, being a mom of 7 daughters between us, we do have a large client database or client base. So we try to keep it pretty family oriented, but also
give them no excuses. That's when I have an event for my alumni brothers, say, yeah, kids are welcome, because that doesn't give them, we got to get a babysitter.
So lots of things that we planned for the youth.
It's going to be really exciting.
Well, so for that new agent that's getting out in their first couple of transactions, you said the database is so important. That is your business. If you guys went back to the very first customer, would you have done something slightly different? You're maybe doing it right now, but what you weren't doing, say, in those first 6 months, right, that you're doing now, as far as nurturing those past clients, because that's where a good bit of your referrals, let alone your warm sphere. You guys are, grew up a lot here, but nurturing those past clients, whether it's a quarterly phone call. I mean, what is something that you passed on early that you're doing now that you tell a new agent they need to do?
Implementing a touch program. I mean, once you are so many transactions in, it's hard to remind yourself to make that phone call, or just just making sure that you have it set to where you remember to send out that birthday card, or reach out to someone, or connect with them if you see a post on social media that their dog passed or something.
Right.
Just make sure that you connect with them and let them know you're paying attention. You
bring up an excellent point. Again, just from an educational standpoint, you've probably have heard this on the podcast or other things you listen. If you're going to do a social media campaign and to use that as staying top of mind to your customers, you have to be interacting with them socially. Because if you're interacting with them, there's more. Facebook is going to keep feeding you what they're putting out. If you're not interacting over time, they're like, well, I guess they're not friends anymore, and you don't see all their stuff. But if you're interacting, then they're going to see your stuff as much as you're going to see their stuff. But you actually have to make a meaningful comment, below and
Right.
respond to when they respond to you, when they say something about your post.
Right. And it needs to be genuine. And,
Yes.
and I know I really try to be really good about that. And I wasn't always. So making sure that I reach out and
I always say Brooke is the older people whisperer, the grandmas and the grandpas just eat her up. And it's because she will sit there and hold their hand and they're not always.
I think it was the farming thing. I think that's idea.
Yeah, she's just such a pure heart. So, so some of and they're nervous because what's a DocuSign? They're not on Facebook. They literally don't know how to text or do things like that. So Brooke's driving over there so they can do a wet signature and helping them figure that stuff out. But
You and I are our patience. Our patience goes thin real quick.
no, I always say I love people from my couch. I love people. I love them from my couch. So I am excited. I want to talk to you, but I'm probably going to talk to you when I'm in the car driving because that's the only time that I'm having to sit still and not on the move. But I do the same thing. When we see that they're having a rough time, just quickly hopping on Amazon and sending a care package or an edible arrangement is so impactful.
You don't know and again, you see some of their bad times, but you don't really know how bad it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how the fact that you actually made a thoughtful gesture of some way to show that, hey, I am thinking about you, can make all the difference.
Yeah. And also sharing so much of yourself, because if they don't know anything about you, then how are they going to connect to it, right? So when I was just heading to the gym one morning and a guy I didn't know that I hadn't talked to since high school, and I'd never seen that he'd never commented on any of my funny reels that I was doing there for a while with the gangster rap and stuff. And I saw him at 6:30 in the morning and I was like, hey, Joey, how's it going? And he was like, oh my gosh, I've been loving your reels. They're so funny. I watch them all the time. And it really blew me away because I was like,
that's cool.
Are we even Facebook friends? Because he's just not a common poster. We're like Brooke. And then we just closed on their house a few months later, they reached out and we just sold them their dream house. So that was really exciting. But also, instead of just posting it generally on social media, sometimes I'll just text some of my past clients that I've befriended a little funny clip of my kids or a little funny selfie where I look like a hot mess or whatever. And that really builds, because they see the real
100%. You don't know who's watching. And I'm going to leave, again, those who are listening right now, I'm going to leave this tip right now. I take the reels from the show and you guys generally see after someone's you'll see them for the next week, almost every day. But I'm taking that same reel and I'm putting it on Facebook, putting on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram, right? Actually, I have the Instagram I was reserving, I'd show one or two reels. Now what I'm going to go to do more posting on Instagram because I wasn't posting every day on Instagram. I was kind of leaving like, hey, this is my show piece. And but I'm going to go back and you might see two reels of the new recent show, but then you're going to see a reel from a show I did 6 months ago. Right. And keep putting this, because a lot of those people weren't on there because I kind of started late with the video, not late with the posting part. But the point is Facebook Reels, I am getting more action off of those. I literally put a post out yesterday of a reel from Stevie Hahn's episode, which was the fall of 21 and had nearly 1,000 views in 2 hours of, it's just a reel, 30 seconds and over 2 hours of people viewing it. Cause it will tell you how many people clicked on it, how many views they did, which is generally a little bit more because some people watched a couple times. And then how many minutes, because that's the whole point of the social media is how many minutes they're spending on that thing. Facebook. And then every morning I wake up, there'll be 12 to 15 things on reels that I posted a couple weeks ago. People are still watching. They're clicking on, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't posted a reel on that guest for a couple weeks. Right. And so they're continuing to resurface those reels within Facebook. So it's a great area if you're not using Facebook Reels to use it just as much as you're using Instagram. For those, I know a lot of people like to use Instagram. I need to use Instagram some more. So just a little tip there. All right. Last info. Anything else you want to say?
Oh, no, me.
You're good. You're quiet. Okay. The last formal, not that was the last formal. This is the informal question. And I have to have an answer from both of you. So we'll see how yin and yang you are. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
I mean, gosh, I could see the value in both. Like I said, I always want to make sure I know my stuff or else I can't I can't give.
Confidence.
Yes, so that's, I think what is for me is maybe more important. I can see the value in who as well,
Of course,
but
of course. Well, it makes total reason. I mean, you kind of started when you were explaining your career. You wanted to shadow that person. It was very important who because how you presented yourself. You needed that internal confidence about a business you hadn't done before. You had an idea, but you hadn't done before. You wanted to learn what was going on the backside, what was around the corners. That makes sense.
I'm going to do the whole yin and yang thing and go in the opposite direction and say it's who you know. And I say that because I think it goes without saying that, Brooke is so relationship based. So I think she doesn't even realize how important it is, like who you know, because her relationships are just so automatic.
Mhm.
I try to be really intentional about my relationships. But one thing I'm learning from this, artificial intelligence and things is in this day and age is that if you don't know the answer, you can find the answer for you. And we're constantly always striving to improve what we know. So we're not just willy-nilly going into this thing. Who a lot of times is more important because it's a relationship business.
Mhm.
And then also who you never know when you're going to need something. And so pouring into those relationships, is it like a deposits into a bank account? You never know when you're going to need to take a withdrawal or when you're going to need a resource to be able to. Our relationships are what provide so much value to our customers, whether it's agent relationships, whether it's lender relationships, whether it's who we know that's going to do their repairs and the renovations afterwards. It's, just being here our whole lives. We have, 500 mutual friends on social media or something like that. But for me, it's who you know, because it's again and again been of value to our customers.
Right. No, yeah, both answers were superb, but you brought it around and we hadn't even talked about it, which is probably another half hour, it's a relationship business. And if you're new out there or you hit that lid, I think both of you would recommend, how are you doing your relationships? Are you nurturing your past clients? And even though they maybe have come in on a Zillow lead and you sold them the house within 3 days, and then all of a sudden you're kind of in contract. So you're not showing them houses anymore. You're not really, the pre-contract relationship building of showing them houses and meeting them at places and so forth. Now that you're under contract, so you're kind of like, okay, you meet them at the inspection, I guess, right? You meet them at the thing, but that it's very important to go back and nurture that. And it's all about the relationship. Like you're saying, people are going to do business with who they like and trust. 100%. Ladies, I appreciate you coming on. Anyone listening, please make a review. If you're listening on the podcast, if you're listening on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to hear more from these great ladies when we get the video back and so forth, as well as the many other great agents that we have on. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.